Hello, Guild Wars 2 live streamers. Today we're going to be talking about the frame drum that's in the gym store right now. And before we do that, let's introduce ourselves.
So I'll start. My name is Aaron. I'm the audio programmer, as you can see on our title card. I started at ArenaNet a year ago, a little bit more than a year ago, and was a huge fan before the game. Played it tons and tons of hours. Not as big as a fan as probably a lot of you guys out there were in terms of hours spent, but I love the game and I was really proud to work on Guild Wars 2. And I spent most of last year building the audio engine up so that it can handle lots of the things that the designers and other programmers were throwing at it, like turning off culling and then more recently the mega servers. But I was very fortunate to have some time to work on some really cool stuff. And one of those projects resulted in this drum that was released a couple weeks ago that I think a lot of people have been excited about. And so we're here basically because internally a lot of people were excited and thought, hey, we should really talk to our fans about this thing. Like, for example, I gave a demo to the company a couple weeks ago and it went really well. And they said, yeah, you should do that for the fans on the live stream. So we're here. My background before I was a programmer here, I was a audio programmer for a couple years for a studio called Sledgehammer Games, which you probably have heard about it recently. They just announced their next game, which is Call of Duty. And then before that, I was a sound designer, and I worked for a year on Dead Space 2. And then before that, I was a grad student doing media technology stuff. And then before that, I was a procedural music composer on Spore for about a year. And so that's my background. That's what I'm here for, and hopefully we can show the drums and have fun with it. So.
And I'm Amy Liu. I'm a producer here at the studio. I've been here since August of 2012. I actually started a week before launch, which was pretty crazy. Before that, I worked at BioWare for 4.5 years on Star Wars: The Old Republic, and then before that, I worked actually at NCSoft working on like City of Heroes, Tabula Rasa, other things like that. So I've been in the NCSoft family for quite a while, but...
she's an MMO veteran.
Yeah,
so
I've been only on...
any fires that happen, she can totally kill it.
So only MMOs. I haven't worked on a console game yet, so that's my experience.
She's cool. I guess she's like, I can handle it.
Yeah.
I've done this big, lots of assets and stuff like that.
Yes, lots of voiceover.
It was good. I'm Drew Cady. I'm a sound designer, and my past I was mainly in movie titles, Pirates of the Caribbean, Where the Wild Things Are, lots of, I don't know, it's like 10 of those. So mostly adventure, kind of action adventure. I've done some documentaries and short films as well, linear, and I was pretty excited to do something in an MMO that's living and breathing. You can spend time, kind of evolve it, and as we've done these, episodes, to really kind of get in there and play with the sound design over years has been really fun. So it's kind of exciting to come back in the instruments and see this kind of expand and give us more opportunities for the players to play with each other. And so, I was pretty jazzed to hear Aaron's pitch for this item, and like, wow, if he could do this would be awesome. And he did it, and he did it quickly too. He's like, oh, let me just play around here a little bit, and he had something fast prototyped up. And I
remember when I was going around saying, I think you should totally do like a instrument that's procedural, a drum, and everyone's eyes were like, yeah, that sounds great. Like, they just doubt. I don't think that's possible.
And you're going to play with other people and it's going to sync. And how are you going to do that? Because we have this server thing.
No, it's possible. We can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Drew, by the way, working with Drew has been awesome. Like, he always comes up to me with ideas that I'm like, where did you come up with? Just super creative, always interesting, always working on, like, you're the tool reactor. Yeah, he's a reactor whiz, and so he's always showing me these crazy tools and things that he's made. And for sound design, it's freaking awesome working with Drew. So the feeling's mutual.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Should we get into?
Yeah.
I think we should start with a little demo.
Yeah, and then I think we wanted, since we have Drew here and Amy and myself, we're kind of like a good opportunity to just open up questions about literally anything about audio. I think McLean, who's our composer, did a live stream a couple months ago or something, so I think that would like cover a lot of the music stuff. And I don't know if we're the greatest people to ask about the general music part of the game, but pretty much anything else with audio, I think we're the crew to answer any questions about that. So if you have anything, we've got someone manning the live stream,
Yes.
pulling questions.
Ruby, the live
Ruby.
the live stream producer.
Yeah. So before I get in, apologize if I'm wearing headphones, which kind of looks weird, but we had to come up with some fancy patching so that I could hear the game and do the live stream. So I'm listening to the game with like one ear, like a DJ. And we're in a home instance, by the way. This is my home, so welcome to my home. I'm sure it looks a lot like your guys' home. But when we're done doing the demo, we were thinking about just jumping into the game and doing a jam session with anybody who wants to join. We're on Blackgate server, so if you see my character who looks like a ninja, Shadewalk, you can come and join us, and we can do a giant fan drum circle if you have a drum.
That would be very fun.
Yeah, and Drew's here in my home instance. Where's your character, Drew? There he is. He's Seismic Echo, which is basically the best name for a sound designer. And then we have another sound designer in the wings. You can see up here. I think he was asleep when we jumped in here, so he's outside waiting for us
Cody,
to join him.
Wake up.
Anyway, so I wanted to angle my guy so you could see the beautiful fountain in the background. Whoa, stop up there. Okay, so the drum, you can buy it in the gem store. It is called the musical frame drum. A frame drum is a type of drum that's used in Celtic music. It's an ancient drum, and we picked it because as like the sort of first drum because of its versatility. It has a lot of different types of sounds, and it's low sounds and high sounds, and it obviously fits with the sort of medieval theme of Guild Wars 2.
Yeah, it really works with other people. Like I can choose to play the high rim shot, and he's playing the low, and it's so flexible. I was really happy to see we got this much flexibility out of one instrument.
Yeah.
Yeah,
really
and without
cool.
it sounding like weird, like you're holding a drum, but then you hear like cymbals or something. And
it's not a one man band. It's, yeah.
And also, it was easier to animate because it's kind of a simple action, so we didn't have to really worry about a lot of really complicated animations and things like that. By the way, the animation and the art on the drum is awesome. If I zoom in here, you can see. I don't know. I think it's kind of cool. So, anyways, when you first load up the drum, you are presented with a skill bar similar to our other instruments. If you have any of the other, for example, I'll just quickly load up the flute. You can see the keys that you can play on the flute, like do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, and there's different octaves and everything. So these are like the way the Guild Wars 2 instruments have been in the past, and so we kind of when we made the drum, we wanted it to feel, when you first pick it up, similar to the old instruments. Like, if I hit 1, it should do something immediately. And similar to the old instruments. Like, if I hit 1, it'll just play that sound over and over. If I hit 2, it plays that sound. And if it hit, etc. So in other words, we call this like free play mode, but it's supposed to imitate the way the existing instruments work. The cool thing about this that makes it different from the other instruments is that it actually quantizes what you push, so that if somebody else is also free playing, it'll sound together from your perspective on your client machine. So if somebody else is doing free play, it'll actually work. I don't know. Yeah, are you doing free play, Drew?
Yep.
Yeah, so he's doing free play, and so now he's doing a loop. But you can, yeah. So it actually. So we could just be doing funky free play as much as we want. Now, also, if you'll notice, and I think there was some people on the forums that noticed it and were like, I want to have exactly the specific like sound to be this one sample when I hit the skill key 1, because what he's noticing is that if I hit 1 over and over, you'll actually hear. Hopefully, you can hear the levels pretty well. I think we did the levels, so hopefully it's good. But basically, you'll hear that it's actually playing different samples. So you hear like it's like some lower notes and some higher notes, but they're all kind of roughly the same feel. And that was intentional. Like we only have a handful of skills, but we want to get the biggest amount of sound that we can get out of it. So we kind of like tricked the user, the player, into hearing more complexity than they could get if it was just the same sample each time. It also sounds more realistic.
Yeah, and the playability just goes up tenfold. I mean, it's so interesting to kind of get in that groove, and it just keeps evolving and makes it a lot more fun than coming back to the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
And the thing is that so there's a lot of variety of samples, but if you were to sit here and like be very perceptive, you'll actually notice it repeating. So it's kind of like what's called in like sample playback, kind of a round robin, where it's randomly picking things, but it'll repick the same things if it happens in the same sort of sequence of like the rhythm of the world. There's actually, for the drum system, there's actually this like global rhythm. Wait, what?
Just 1 second. We're gonna check out something. Oh, she wants you to uncheck some of the chat that's coming in.
I don't understand. Anyways.
We'll move on.
Sorry. Basically, what was I talking about? I totally forget.
The different varieties on each of the...
Oh, yeah. You'll hear... Oh, I was about to say something, is that there's actually this global rhythm that is, like, pervasive with this thing, so that everyone who's playing is actually going to tap into this global beat, which I think is kind of, like, interesting.
We should probably crank it up a bit. I think that's what we're
Oh, is that the issue?
Yeah.
Let me turn it up a bit for everybody. Everything's up here.
Turn down the... Maybe it's the water fountain.
Yeah, I'll turn this down. So anyways, so it's the free play drums. If I flip, I'll talk about these in a second. It's a little slightly more interesting and complicated, but similar to the other instruments, there's different modes that you can select. Like so, like in the other instruments, going to a different mode basically just switches the octave. For the drums, we actually made the mode system flip to a different like play style, so you can flip between preset loops and the player loops. So in the preset loop mode, you have the keys 1 through 5 change from being free play sounds, like just single one-shot samples, to a sort of longer, basically a loop, like a groove or a loop. So if you click that, it's actually going to play a little loop, and it's sort of like a pre-made loop that we made. Actually, underneath, it's actually playing a sort of algorithmic procedural drum system that just happens to have the same seed every time. So when you first start doing it, it'll actually do like a little procedural jam and then go back into the loop, and it'll always be the same each time. But the fact that it's procedural, in other words, it's not playing a pre-recorded like sample of loops, it's playing back an algorithm that is like able to be changed in real time. So for example, these keys, that ability allows us to have the ability to change the algorithm at any point of the groove. So keys 6 and 7 here are random solo 1 and random solo 2. It's random, and that like it is different every single time. So if I push it, you hear this groove going on. He basically is like doing a little solo. The animation doesn't sync with it, but we felt that like it sounds cool enough that it's fine. So, and it does something a little bit different every time. Sometimes it's really
subtle.
Yeah, sometimes it's subtle. I like to think of it as like it's your character. He's like trying to be chill, and then other times he really feels it, and you realize
you want to punctuate something.
Yeah,
you get really into it that one moment.
So I tuned the 6 and 7 keys so that 6 is generally probabilistically going to be more active, and 7 is going to be sort of more spacey, a little bit more laid back. I'm thinking of the two as like, this is like to do like a kind of a thing, and 7 is gonna do a like a kind of a thing, you know, like
a little more funky.
Yeah, a little bit more funky. So
by
like
the way, this is my favorite part of working in the audio department is that we only have our mouths to describe how something is gonna sound, and
yeah, we'll be in like stand-ups and like, okay, so wait, how do you want to, you know, like whatever.
all the time.
Or like I get a bug and it'll be like, you know, I'm hearing this pop. I'm like, can you, or whatever. So can you, what do you hear? It's like a, it's like, okay, what does that actually?
What does that translate to?
And oftentimes debugging, like especially with this system, debugging is like just listening really carefully, because sometimes like the bug is like a really subtle, off by one timing error or something like that. So anyways, so 7, if I hit 7, you hear it's like a little bit more funky.
More spacey.
But the cool thing is that it always go back down onto the downbeat of the groove. So you hear the doom, 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 doom. So if you like count it, 1, 2. Actually, when I was doing this, I was totally sitting here at my computer, surrounded by all the other engine programmers, like jamming out, like trying to get the timing and make sure everything lined up right, because like subtle bugs can come in and you totally lose the groove. So anyways, the other thing I really wanted to get this to work right is being able to switch between the grooves at any point. So rather, if I play groove 2, I don't want it to start over at the beginning. I want to start where it would have been if it was playing at the beginning. That way, the downbeat is always maintained. So it's not like I'm just picking another group. I'm like.
So mid-sentence, you're moving into the next group.
Exactly. So that like it'll switch out. Think of it as like a live like mixing thing. I mean, it's not crazy. It's a pretty common thing to do in music software and things like that. But it's important to make sure that when you do a system like this, if you want other people to play with you and have it make sense, it needs to rhythmically line up so that the downbeats are always. Also, by the way,
it allows you to remix
exactly.
on the fly.
Totally.
Not have to be bound to these certain sequences.
Yeah.
And like, okay, I'm just going to do this for a while, but you can shake it up
Yeah,
and
that's
then do
right.
your fill and then come back and go, okay, 3, and then go back to 1,
That's
then do
right.
a couple fills, and then go to 2. And it'll sound good. And that's the nice thing about this is it's accessible. And you always sound good.
Yeah. It's
Which
easy to.
that's
You don't
the
have to
hard
know
part,
anything
I
about
think,
music.
of-
Just push buttons and it'll.
It's hard to
cool.
sound bad.
The other
using this system.
The other thing I thought was an interesting side effect that I noticed it when I like first played it on live is that you can be doing something creative and musically, but like passively. So in other words, like I'm like doing a groove right now, but I'm free to talk to you guys. I can go and chat.
Right.
And the other thing too is you can actually run around with the thing, which when we first did internally, when we did a demo of it, like we got it all up and running, the designer that we worked with, Curtis, he hadn't yet, it's like basically when you started running, you'd put the drum away. And we're standing there like, man, we really, really need to be able to run. Is that possible, Curtis? And he's like, oh yeah, I can totally do that. And so then, as soon as we started running around, I was like, oh my gosh, I need a war drum loop, because I'm imagining like just running in a crowd with a bunch of people. So I remade one of these loops and made it sound just more drum. I think 4 is the one. Yeah. No, is it 3? Yeah, 3 is the one. I just feel it's like
Preparing
it's like
for battle.
Yeah, it's like a war drum, thing, which is what the intention was. And what's cool is that as you're running around, you can actually do everything in solo. So that kind of thing.
And we have to give a shout out to Curtis because he did a lot of work on this, and it's awesome. We did all the UI stuff.
Yep.
Designed it all.
Yeah, we got new icons that are different for the drum and everything like that too. And also like I said, the animators and the artists who did the model and everything is
Cody.
awesome. And Cody helped out with some of the implementation. Cody's the guy that's over here asleep he was supposed
I think
to
he
join.
couldn't get in.
Anyways, so this is the loops, and it's all cool, but actually this was just to give you a little bit of background, when we first did the drum, this is pretty much the extent of what we imagined it to be when we first worked on it. And we got it, and we all liked it, and it was really cool. And then Curtis, speaking of Curtis as a designer, he like sends out this email to like the sort of list that we're like reviewing the drum and see if it was fun and we should do it. Curtis is like, yeah, I really want to be able to like make my own groove on like a looping thing. And he kind of described this thing, and I was like, is he talking about like a looping sequencer? And I was like, man, that would be impossible. I was like, that's impossible. So I like literally replied, and I was like, we don't have time for that. It's just not gonna happen. Like, it's a cool idea, but whatever. And then literally as soon as I sent it, I was like, oh dude, you know what? I think we could do it. I totally think we could do it. And then I was like, it's gonna be crazy. And by the way, this was suggested like maybe 2 or 3 weeks before we were supposed to be done with it. Like,
it was late in the design, and Aaron's wheels started turning. You can see him get excited, and he just started scripting real fast.
The thing is that we put it together. So this is here. I'll stop right now. We put it together pretty quickly, and I have to say, like, to give a shout out, also another shout out to the audio programmer that I replaced, Jim Bohr. Genius programmer. He's got way more experience programming than I have. Like, I think he's been a audio programmer for over 10 years or something. So he wrote this really elaborate, beautiful engine, and I kind of inherited it and tried to figure it out and learn it. And one of the really key pieces of technology he had is the ability to do client-side scripting and audio, which I think literally is the only system in Guild Wars 2 that has that ability to, like, so the audio team can actually, like, do things without having to hard code it. In other words, like, they can do a lot of complex things without having to write C++ code, which meant that
it empowers the artist.
Exactly.
Instead of having to go, hey Aaron, can you just give me a script property?
Yeah.
And that takes time, and does he have time to do it?
Yeah.
And then the iteration time of getting it back, like a couple weeks or a month later,
or not even that, like a script property, like that's one of the things that we use in our client-side scripting is like setting properties around, and we can query those properties and make really ridiculous sound design stuff. Like, without that, we have to do everything in C++, which takes a really long time. It's very dangerous, like because if you make a crash, it can affect thousands of players and all this stuff. So anyways, with this idea, I was like, I think we can do it entirely in this like data-driven system
on the client.
And that was pretty much the only reason why we were able to do it, is because doing it as a full-fledged feature would have taken a lot longer. So anyways, without further ado, I'll explain it. And that's so basically it started with Curtis's idea, and then we iterated on it, and it actually turned out to be one of the most amazing things I think I've ever I mean, it maybe sounds arrogant to say it because I worked on it, but like when I first started playing with it, I was like, this is magic. Like, I've never played anything like this in an MMO. Like, it's one of those things to imagine that it's going to be awesome, then you go like, actually, this is awesome. This is really fun. So anyways, so to get to it, you go back to the first thing that you see when you pick up the instrument. Like, so I'll just show you like from the beginning. So if you pick up the instrument, you get put into the free play mode. This is the one I sort of first mentioned. If you click these buttons, it'll actually turn your drum into a loop record mode. Like, from this point on, anything you play on the free drums will actually repeat itself, and so thus you can build any kind of groove you want. So it's pretty simple, but really fun. So when you first click 6, the reason I'm waiting is I want to explain. The first thing you'll hear is a ticking sound. That's what that is a metronome. And it's actually on the UI category, not on the player instrument category. So it says UI volume. The reason why is it's actually a UI sound, and UI sounds aren't shared with other players. So in other words, you are the only person that hears a click track. Other people aren't going to hear your click track. And the whole point of it is it's supposed to give you a sense of where the global rhythm is. It gives you your conduit into the rhythm of the universe of Guild Wars 2. So if I start clicking it, you'll hear a little click track. So that's actually the same downbeat that other people would be synchronizing to if they were playing next to you. So if you're by yourself, it gives you an ability to know like what the tempo is. So the idea is 1, a 2, a 1, 2, 3, 4. And if I start playing, you can start hearing it loop. It's as simple as that. And so all of the cool like free drum sounds and everything now are going to just like repeatedly record themselves, and they can start just adding complexity to it.
And you can just keep, and it'll just cycle, and you can keep adding more layers and layers and layers until it becomes crazy.
And you can go, you can go crazy with it.
Yeah.
And so if you wanted,
is there a maximum amount of?
Yeah, actually, there is. If you're like, is there a maximum amount of things that you can do? Like, yeah, there totally is. It's a really good question.
Like if I just went there and went 5, 5, 5, 5, 5.
Yeah. If you just, I'll just do that.
Yeah.
And so, basically, it's just playing at the lowest quantization level of the groove, which I believe is eighth notes. I think the tempo is 120 beats per minute, and then the lowest is eighth. I picked that by experimenting with a bunch of different tempos, and this was the one that seemed the most interesting with the widest variety, the least like technical impact, and lag and all these kinds of things. Like I tried to figure out the best tempo that was the most fun that worked technically. It's something that we're thinking about. Sort of where do we go from here with insert things is like variable tempos and things like that we're playing with, and
That would be awesome.
yeah, there's a lot of stuff that like we have pages and pages of brainstorming about things that we want to do.
People want to play their own songs.
Yeah, and whatever.
May not be 100
yeah, we follow forums, so if you have ideas that you think would be great, just put them on the forum and we'll read it. We totally take it very seriously. So anyways, if you want to start over, you just click the 6 again, so you'll hear the click track, and then you can do your own one again. So why is there 2? It's because the only thing better than one user groove that you can create is 2 user grooves. So like when we got it one working, we're like, we have this space for another one, so let's do another one. And so basically you can just start another one. So, and then what's cool is that you can actually flip back to your old one that you recorded. So let's make this one have a lot of the rim shot sounds.
Yeah, that's my favorite.
Incidentally, this is actually an interesting story of the sound of that rim shot. So when we first put the frame drum together, it didn't have the rim shot sound. And I had made another drum that was a taiko drum, which is a kind of a cool sounding Japanese drum. And we had all these like taiko drum samples and stuff like that. And one of the sounds of a taiko drum is this. So this is the sound of a taiko drum rim shot. So it actually does break the fiction of a frame drum a little bit.
Well, it's kind of hitting the side.
Yeah,
A little more interesting than just
yeah.
a little short.
And it actually kind of sounds probably like a drumstick hitting something, but which you obviously don't have. I guess you do have a drumstick here. There's a little drumstick. Anyways, I experimented. I was like, well, what if I take the 5 thing here and make it and it sounded awesome. I was like, it sounded perfect.
Works
And I was like, okay, that's free. And I showed it to people and they really liked it. So anyways, that's the story of that. It's not actually a frame drum sound. It's a taiko drum sound. So anyways, what's cool, so you can go back to your thing, and then similar to the preset grooves where you can flip between them, you can also flip between the user grooves at any point. What's cool also, and this was something I think Curtis again mentioned, we had this working and then Curtis was like, it'd be really cool if I could do a solo on top of my user groove. And I was like, Curtis, keep coming up with cool ideas, but I was like, that's a good idea, we should do it. So if you flip back, so you can still be playing your user groove, and if you flip back, so you're hearing your user groove, and I can do my random solo. So I can actually solo on top of
Something that you've created.
Exactly, something that you've created. Exactly. So that's pretty much, I think, all the drum is, other than the fact, and this is the killer. So the drum is cool, and it would be lame though if somebody next to you started playing drums and it completely clashed though, right? Like if they were off on a different, nobody could play together. And this is the whole original reason why we did a drum, is that we felt like, or I had this idea that it would be possible to have multiple people from your perspective on your client sound good, so you could play together with people. And so that's the killer thing. So and this is why Seismic, he's got his drum. So start whipping it out. So first thing you notice, by the way, so let me stop so you can just hear him. So that's him.
Yeah, let me make something real quick.
Yeah, he's gonna compose it out.
Yeah.
Improvise.
I'll do something high. I'll do something on the rim.
So he's got a little groove going, and I can just do a free play here for a second.
And I'm kind of doing a high thing, so if he does a low thing, we can play together and it won't be cluttered.
Yeah.
If everyone's playing the same, like number one, it kind of gets, like, I don't know what I'm playing, what you're playing. So it's interesting to kind of get a circle and play the different pieces.
Yeah. You can totally imagine coordinating.
It's more of a drum circle.
Your drum circle composition. So like, so he's doing his thing. I'm gonna start clear my user group so you can actually hear the clicking with his thing. So you'll hear that it actually like
Oh, wow.
it's totally synchronized.
I didn't know that. How does it know you're in range?
So that's a good question. It actually is using the same system as the rest of the sound, so you can hear it kind of fade out.
Okay.
So when you come in range, you'll hear it, filter and all this kind of thing. We try to make the range reasonable, so you can imagine people standing near each other, being able to do a drum circle, but it wouldn't annoy the entire universe of people. Also, if you don't know this and you're watching this, there's a special slider for player instrument volume. So you can turn down player instrument volume. Of course, the clicking is on the UI one, as I mentioned earlier. But anyways, it's something that we are looking at as, by the way, for a feature. If somebody is just totally annoying you because they keep playing an instrument, or it's been suggested on the forums, I think, to be able to like block them and have that mute their instrument. Something I'm working on right now. At some point, it'll be something that will probably be released with a Living World update or something. But anyways, so he's jamming. You hear my click track, and let me just start. So here we go. We're totally jamming.
Yeah.
Drew's doing his groove. I'm doing my groove.
Do a little solo over it.
So now so that's Drew soloing. That's not me. So it'd be cool if like we had some kind of like visual representation when they were soloing. But these are things that we can improve through future iterations and things. But as it is, it's pretty fun. Just imagine.
It's really fun.
And we can run around doing this too. You want to run around at home?
And what I kind of like about it is it's a complex system, but it's simple to use, and it just kind of like grows with the number of people you have.
Right.
And that's kind of what I was impressed with is, making a musical instrument with existing UI, it's hard to do. It's like, Guild Wars is not an instrument, but we made it made a way to get to it and actually do music with it and sequence it.
Yeah,
it's cool.
Which that's actually a good point. Like a lot of the instruments that we've come up with are sort of using the skill bar that the rest of the game uses for the weapons and things like that. And it's amazing how much you can get out of just like 8 keys, or more than that. Luckily for musical scales, there's 8. So there's some.
It makes a little sense.
Some luckiness there. But yeah, like you can get a lot out of these things, and it's amazing. Like the flexibility of the engine allowed us to do this without a huge amount of expense on the part. We were able to do this while maintaining, like the schedule that we have for all the other things that we have to do. Like I'm doing this while also fixing crazy threading problems in the audio engine, and you're doing. Helping out with the sounds on these things, and while you're also working on huge, content releases
and making more sound effects fully.
Yeah,
we do that.
Lots of field recordings.
One thing that's kind of fun too is we have our own little Foley room, and we can do our own recordings and get different sounds and more intricate, detailed stuff that's only playable, for our game.
Yeah,
which is kind of nice.
Did you record the drum stuff here? Or
we do not do those, but
okay.
I have been recording some drums. I've been recording just random stuff and just kind of playing with some ideas right now.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
We have a Confluence page where we've just like brainstormed out all these ideas for instruments and what we can do with it and what kind of instruments would be interesting. So if you have any ideas for, as players, like an instrument that you think would be really cool for the game, like go ahead and like post it on the forum. We totally would like take into consideration.
There's an actual question.
Let's answer this.
Someone was saying, what instrument is the most popular so far? And
question from Timmy.
From Timmy.
I think.
I don't know.
I actually, so we have metrics on microtransaction, like sort of things in the gem store about what's successful and what's not. So the instruments are really successful as like a sort of long-term thing. They sell really well consistently. They don't peak. They're not like out of the park. But
they're also not themed in general.
Yeah, they're not themed with like Halloween updates or whatever. They're kind of just instruments that people can do. We consider them as like sort of like quality of life things that enhance the feel of make Guild Wars fun, and they don't impact gameplay, and they're just sort of a social thing. And so a lot of people who buy things in the gem store are interested in like getting gold or like getting things to enhance, like tweak their character or like whatever. But the people that like the instruments, I think, really like them, and so there is a sort of consistent fan base of people who get the instruments, which really helps us like justify making more of them. So if you like the instruments, totally like let us know. Just give us feedback about things and everything like that.
And we do see your YouTube videos that you post.
Yeah, we do. We share those,
which is amazing.
Yeah. Actually, there's a guy, I can't remember his name. There's a guy that when the frame drum first went, that like did this hip hop YouTube thing that went around, and we all were really. I had never like I'd been playing it for hours, and I was like, man, like the guy's comes up with this thing that's way better than anything I could have done in like an hour. But anyway, so to answer the question real fast, I think the most popular in terms of absolute numbers is the harp right now, which is incidentally our first instrument that we designed using we've kind of redesigned our fundamental approach to instruments under the hood. And the harp appears like the other instruments, like the flute, but actually it's operating entirely different, and that's which the drum also uses. So the harp was like our first our first like test of the underlying architecture for instruments, and I think it really helped because a lot of people really like the harp, and it was really successful. In terms of like acceleration, the drum is the most popular. Like because it's only been out for a couple weeks, it's doing really well. But I think that still the harp is the absolute most popular.
All right, second question from Zaksik. Would being able to free play over the drum over your custom loop be possible? Yeah,
I don't know if that is a great question because I forgot to leave that out. You actually can do it. He probably knows the answer. So yeah, you can totally do that. Here, I'll show you. So I'll make from scratch a free play groove so you can see. Oh wait, no, you can't do it on the free play. You can do it on the. Sorry, you can do it on the preset grooves. You can do a free play, but not on your own custom loop. No, because
you're constantly cycling and recording.
Right. Yeah. So, sorry, in my mind I read it as preset groove, which you can totally do.
That's
not on
like
the
a new
user
feature.
Groove. Yeah, that's actually a great idea for a feature. The problem with that is that we'd have to like figure out a way to like say, hey, stop recording now, but keep playing the groove back.
Right.
And then now do free play on top of it, which we're running out of buttons to push. But it's an idea that we have pitching to do more advanced stuff with hotkeys and key commands. Like you can do key mappings down here. We're thinking about how we could add like really advanced commands down here for like player instruments, and one of those could be like what you suggest, which is to be able to do that kind of thing.
So you go back to the other grooves, and then so start one.
Yeah. So this is what I thought he was asking, which you can totally do. So this is a preset groove that's playing, and then while it's playing back, I can, which is kind of cool. Like it sort of changes it up. Yeah, you can play back your preset groove and then like add layer onto it. So yeah, you can do that, which I totally forgot about. So that question.
Okay. So are there other instruments that you think will lend itself well to this new system?
Yeah, they're in terms of like types.
Yeah, like what instrument types work well with this? Is it mainly drums, percussion, or is it?
I think
everything.
Yeah, like I think drums. When you say drum, I think there's a lot that you can mean by that.
Yeah.
So there's different kinds of percussion. One of the things that we kind of are restricted to is the sort of, we call it like fiction of the world, and so it would be cool if you had like a drum kit or something like that. But then like, what would you like whip it out and then set up a kit? Like, would that fit in your pack? I don't know. Like, we could make it ridiculous, like in Mary Poppins, and have like a one-man band. I think that would actually be really cool. Maybe it's like an Epic Elite Gear or something like that. Like, you know, when you beat all of Guild Wars 2 in the future of all possible things that you can get from on high, from the heavens comes down a Mary Poppins one-man band set.
When I first started here, Halloween was our first or second update, and they're really big wanting a theremin to play. I don't know how that would work with the new system.
Yeah, theremin would be really cool.
Yeah.
So if you don't know what a theremin is, theremin's like one of the first electronic instruments that has this like
Yeah.
You know,
It's
it's like in
totally
the old
50 sci-fi.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Instant bam.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be cool to do. The problem with that is that you'd almost want like a real-time synthesizer in the engine, which we don't do that, but that's totally possible. We could
Yeah.
make it, because like to do that with sample playback would be really
Yeah,
crazy.
Yeah.
you'd have to fade them. You'd want a kind of an XY thing.
Yeah,
so
but
you
it
could
wouldn't
zoom
sound
around.
like a theremin.
Yeah.
One of the ideas was, you know how you have to use both hands? That it could be two people. It'd be like
Oh,
an
wow.
oversized.
Maybe there's a
This is
theremin prop, and it gets distance from both players, and you can play it that way.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be really cool.
Yeah.
Like a
So-
in-world thing that
Yeah,
like
yeah,
just
Yeah,
interact.
it would just
Yeah,
sit,
yeah.
you know, sit in the middle of
Yeah.
a city,
Yeah.
and people could just run up to it. And
That's actually that's an idea that I
for
think.
Halloween,
Yeah, or
something scary
or just
weird.
permanent. Like
Yeah.
so one of my previous lives I did crazy. I kind of still do experimental music, like installations and crazy noise music and stuff. And by noise I mean really noisy, like crazy stuff. And I have this like fantasy or dream of like doing a cool installation thing in the Guild Wars world, like in one of I forget which province, somewhere over here is that like ridiculous
Oh,
huge
Yeah. The band. It's
the
in,
band thing was
Carnival.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
The one-man band.
yeah, it's a little bit like silly looking because you know like tubas and things like that. But I want to just like come on the weekends or something and just make something ridiculous and like so it's this weird evolving procedural music like
Yeah,
crazy
there you
system just for fun and then like show it to somebody in Guild Wars and be like, hey Colin, what do you think of this? And Colin's like, oh that's crazy, and don't do that.
So do we want to head to an area so
Yeah.
that other people could?
Yeah,
play
so
with
if there's any if there's any questions, feel free to keep asking. Ruby's watching it, and we thought it would be a really cool idea, like we said in the beginning, to like go and jam with players if they're out in the world. This is a little bit nervous. I mean I'm a little bit nervous. I don't know if we've ever done something like this. So we are on Blackgate, and I'm in my home instance, as you can tell. We did this so that we could do it. So I don't know, where do you guys want to go? I was thinking maybe we can just go right into District Promenade, or is that crazy? Where should we go? How about we just go out the door?
That works.
Salmo Waypoint. And, let's just leave the instance here. Let's see what happens. We're going to play with people if there's anybody around here. I'll put on my guild tag. Where's the... where's that? Totally forget. There it is. So this is what the ArenaNet tag looks like. Alright, so I should be representing. If anybody here is... And so we're just going to jam here out in the public and chat if people want to ask questions for the remainder of the live stream. I think it's kind of a neat idea to like just jam out with people.
Yeah.
Who's playing the harp? Someone's sounding really good on it. So maybe within 15 seconds we'll get a huge number of people on this because of there's a little bit of delay in the live stream. So, anyways, do you guys have anything to point out? Did I leave anything out?
No, I think we should talk about some of the future ideas for instruments. Like right now they're a social thing, but I know there's been discussion about maybe, tying them into gameplay as, not as far as like buffing your character, but maybe to open a door, to lure something.
Yeah, there's a lot of ideas that we're brainstorming. Jam session.
Oh, wow.
I knew
Quite
it.
a
In
crowd.
15 seconds there'd be a crowd.
See, music brings everyone
What is
together.
somebody who has no idea what's going on? Tad knew.
Someone is playing My Heart Will Go On.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an ANET party. But anyways, yes, back to your question. There's a lot of things that we're brainstorming about. We're totally in the experimental phase right now where we want to take instruments. There's we're looking at a lot of different things that other people have tried, what works, what doesn't. I'm personally really committed to coming up with the coolest stuff that you've ever seen in an MMO for instruments. If it's possible, I want to try it and see if we can do it.
Yeah.
as one person can manage to come up with crazy technology. That's what I want to do. Yeah, look at this little impromptu jam session. Man, there's Yak here is just really into it. He's really, yeah.
It's really to see the different animations on the different races when they're playing instruments. It looks really funny.
Yeah, this person, Helen Killer, has the right idea. Just run around as someone from ArenaNet.
Yeah.
What's awesome is Helen Killer has like the same armor set as I do. It's like cool to see like it on a bigger person. But I'm gonna give a shout out to Kira on the flute, totally fluting it up. But yeah, like when we before it went live, we were testing the drums out, and me and a couple engineers who joined our party? Tim sits next to me in the engine team office. So shout out to Tim. But when we first got the drums hooked up, I think me and a couple other engineers sat, and I was just demoing it because they're working on different crazy technology things, and so sometimes we don't know what other engineers are working on. I was like, hey, check out these drums, and they're like, oh man, and we ended up literally spending 3 hours totally jamming out. It was actually a little bit sad in a lot of ways. It's really at work, it's way past when we should have gone home. We're like, oh, this is actually really fun.
You need to have fun, socialize.
Didn't the QA engineering team create a test map with just drums?
Yeah, so there was a concern when we did this, especially the primary thing in an MMO is to make sure that people can play together, and especially with some of the new things like Mega Series coming out and everything. We try to test for worst case scenarios, and so QA put together a map. You imagine internally we have the ability to bot characters with Python scripting and stuff, and so they had put together this map which was literally all of map cap on top of within a 5 by 5 foot radius, all of them randomly playing instruments of all different types, every different combination, literally the most complicated thing that you could possibly imagine. And it had no impact on the server frame rate or anything, but it made the craziest. I don't know if you know music history or music theory, but if you know Schoenberg, look up Schoenberg, SCHOENBERG. Look up him and on YouTube or something. That's what it sounded like. It was the craziest thing I've ever heard. It was just all random notes, kind of what's sounding like right now with the flute and the harp going on.
If they would have played the drum, just all drums, it would have all sounded the same, right?
So the thing is that if everybody were to play instruments, the audio engine it's literally unable to play all possible sound requests, and so at some point the audio engine limits what can play. So you end up hearing sort of random events of some instruments that made it through and other ones didn't. So you won't literally hear all of everything all at once, but it'll just sound like. But
if it's all drums, it might sound.
But if it's all drums, it actually would sound good.
Yeah.
It wouldn't. It just wouldn't be. It wouldn't sound like 100 drummers.
Yeah.
So we've got an awesome jam session in our virtual Guild Wars 2 world, but it looks like we're about to have a jam session in their office.
Well, hello.
Oh goodness.
So,
what in the heck is going on?
Hey McLean, I was looking for you earlier today. Were you around walking in the hallways with that?
I was. I was looking for you, and then
Nice.
I heard the sound of distant drums. So I was just working on some music, and I thought.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
Is that how you normally carry around the music?
Yeah, I was,
He's
sometimes I gotta put it down, and then
McLean is as a real life minstrel.
Yes.
I am truly.
He actually doesn't know how to use a computer. He just sits with parchment in his.
Yeah, and I dictate.
He actually has his own finisher now.
Yeah.
That's true. Actually, there is the minstrel finisher, which has a new minstrel, a new remix of the minstrel song, sort of.
So McLean, if you don't know McLean, by the way, just do an introduction. He's the composer of Guild Wars 2. He's been writing all our music, and
not all of it, but
all of our more recent stuff.
Yeah. So sorry to interrupt.
It's okay.
The
Not a
jam
problem.
session, but I wanted to kind of let everybody know that we're getting ready here for the next season of The Living World, and my part in that is to contribute some new music, and I wanted to do something special. So I've written about a half an hour of new music. And with a little bit of help from Leif Chappelle, who's helped me in the past. And this time we're doing something a little new, where we're actually going to be recording a live orchestra, which
great.
is the first time we've done that for any Guild Wars game, and I'm pretty excited. Yeah, and
It's been fun to hear McLean give updates on like putting together the sort of pipeline of figuring out who to record with and
it's fun.
like dealing with people. Yeah.
It's been fun.
Yeah, we have meetings.
At
And
the expense of sleeping, a lot of planning at the expense of sleeping.
Yeah.
But tomorrow I fly out, and I'll be in faraway lands recording exotic orchestras for, your enjoyment, Tyrians.
Great.
Anyway, that's all I wanted to say. Sorry to interrupt you. Go back
No,
to
no,
jamming.
thanks for
Yeah.
stopping by.
Yeah.
Man, this jam session looks like it's totally taken off. Nice.
Wait.